And welcome to Conservative Soul.
I mean, honestly, what are we doing? Because 3 Republicans apparently are in favor of the border invasion.
Yes, and now that we've convicted one mother, can we now go after them all?
And as we promised, we're going to wrap this show up with talking about the 2024 convention cycle.
And welcome back to Conservative Talk. And my name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we'd like to take a minute to make sure that you are following Jamie's law. And that is, you are required by divine edict to make sure that you are hitting the like button as well as the share button on anything that we do produce. You are also mandatorily dictated by the Supreme Almighty over here that you must subscribe to the platform as well. He also declares that there is a nationwide mandatory minimum 10% tithing that must go on, and you can tithe at our website at conservativestalk.org. So make sure you are continuing to give out your tithing so Jamie can bring his good message to everyone across the entire world. So with that, let's jump right in.
I don't even,
The faces.
I mean,
faces.
What do you say to this?
That's a good point. That's a good point. With that, let's jump right into the first topic, and that is 3 Republicans who seem to love the border invasion.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about before, we are literally being invaded to the sum of what was it? Something like 5,000 people per day.
No, that's the new border bill.
Like
that would allow
5,000 people.
Yeah, we're looking at somewhere around about 7,500 to 8,000
per day.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Per day. There's enough people to fill most of your metropolis cities coming in on a quarterly basis. And here we go with not only is the federal government trying to stop Texas and the rest of the states from sending their National Guard to help defend the border, but you also now have 3 Republicans who are claim to be Republicans who are siding with the Democrats on making sure that this continues.
Yes, and those 3 are Mike Gallagher, Ken Buck, and Tom McClintock.
Which is asinine, right?
Yeah. Mike Gallagher, Mike Gallagher and Ken Buck are very anti-impeachment overall. Like that's their position. They are very against impeaching anyone to begin with at all. And outside of someone walking up, shoving documents in their face that clearly show treason or bribery or anything like that, they don't seem to understand the concept of high crimes and misdemeanors. So those are the 2 that I'm aware of that are really anti-impeachment. I'm not really entirely sure of Tom McClintock, but I will say if Tom's namesake knew anything about this, John Wayne would come and kick his ass.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, honestly, it's appalling, really. I mean, at what point are we going to actually defend our country? And kudos to the Republican governors who are stepping up and helping Texas and sending their National Guards out to help, prepare the border and, and make sure that the border's secure. I mean, because this is getting outrageous.
Yep. And before anyone comes in and starts throwing out shade on us on there, we understand 100% that there were 4 Republicans that did vote against this bill. The reason why we have left one of the 4 Republicans off was because this was a strategic vote for this man. Changed his vote from a yes to a no, specifically because he can now come back and, under the process of Robert's rules, reconsider this bill at a later time. There were 2 members of Congress that were out, one for a family crisis that was going on and another for medical issues. So because Blake Moore came in, put his Superman cape on, and decided to change his vote from a yes to a no, it allows this bill to come up at a later time when they actually have all the votes there to do this.
Yeah, so now we get another shot at it to, to save the country and protect it, because again, we don't know who's coming across the southern border. And, there are different institutes and foundations who are looking at these numbers, and we really have no idea, because they're coming from so many different places, and there's a number that are unaccounted for even once they cross over, to where we have no idea where they're coming from. These, we could have pop-up terrorist attacks, and it would be all failed upon, Mayorkas and the Biden administration.
Oh yeah. So this new border bill that's been released, the text up and everything, they're talking about allowing 5,000 immigrants in, 5,000 immigrants in per day that would be allowed to be processed through and then released into the United States under Mayorkas's idea of a asylum process. If Joe Biden doesn't suspend everything altogether and declare an emergency and allow the border to remain wide open, do you realize the overall number that 5,000 immigrants coming across the border every single day for an entire year would be?
A lot.
1,825,000.
Which is ridiculous, right? Because and everybody wants to go back and point out, well, this is how our founding fathers and everybody else got here, but there was a process for it. Literally, we created Ellis Island for this exact reason.
Well, if you want to go back to the founding, the people that came over there, they came over, they trekked across the United States in covered wagons. Half of them died of typhus. I mean, it was a very perilous journey to come out, and then they built their lives themselves. They weren't given government checks. They weren't given these prepaid government taxpayer phone calls. They weren't given prepaid taxpayer phones. They weren't given anything. They had to do all of it themselves.
Yeah.
They risked their lives to do this. They weren't coming here to get, the government's going to take care of us for the rest of our lives, so we'll just go up there and have a great life doing that. They came here knowing that there was a very good chance that them and their children will die in the process.
Yeah, and the whole point,
they earned their right to be here,
which is the whole point of what immigration reform should be altogether, right? We got to get out of this idea that we are we're going to save everyone without due process. There has to be a way for people to come in and come through legally and
stay where they are until we say come.
Beforehand, why is it such a problem now? Even in the NAFTA era, there were still visas and then permanent residency cards, green cards, things like that were given out. But now all of a sudden they want to flood the gates and just, let anyone and everyone in.
Think of it like a job application process. You apply for a job, you come in for the interview. If you're acceptable for the position, you get in. If you're not, you don't.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to put it.
I can't either. This is honestly sickening the way that we have allowed immigration on both ends, honestly, because now, let's just think about the inhumane part about it, right? We are now allowing people to come in with no idea of where they're going, where they're coming in. We're floodgating them in. And this is inhumane on the Biden administration's, side to allow for people who have no idea where they're going or no process to get everything in. They're just handing them stuff and saying, here you go, be on with your way. They don't have any jobs. We don't know of any skills that they may have to where we can, start to work to try to do some work placement or anything like that.
Yeah. And not to mention a vast majority of the ones that are coming over through sex slavery.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the children that have been just disappeared.
Yeah. And there's no way of checking it, which is to me, there's an element of sex trafficking here. I don't care what anybody says, that I feel like needs to be exposed and explored, because you don't do open borders this way without having some way of making sure that the people who are actually coming over here are not only safe, but that they are here for the right reasons, and that they actually came here at their own free will, which is why these checkpoints are being put in place and why there needs to be a streamline of getting people into the system. And that can only come through reform and some kind of process.
Yeah, it's the whole process is broken. That's the reason why I am a big advocate of shut it all down until we get it fixed and we remove the backlog and we can move forward from there.
Completely agree.
Until that point in time, close it out.
Close it out.
Well, with that in mind, we do like to take a quick moment to remind everyone of Jamie's Law. You know, I've got to come up with a graphic when I do this.
Jesus.
I'll put you like in a
don't do that.
Flowing white robe and a big giant halo, make you look like a big cherub.
I think that's
maybe
awful.
I can find a black cherub and put your face on.
I think that's awful.
Look forward to the black Jamie cherub. It's coming soon to the viewing platform of your.
Sometimes I don't know why I endure this.
But make sure you are liking and sharing all of the content as well as subscribing to the channel. And also, if you're able to, please go to the website, conservativetalk.org, and help us out with what you're able to, because every little bit does go a long way in allowing us to be able to continue these productions. So with that, let's take a look at the next topic, and that is now that one mom has been convicted, can we go after the others?
Wow.
So what we're talking about here is Jennifer Crumbley. So Jennifer Crumbley is the mother of a little spawn of Satan. I'll go ahead and say this young kid deserves not to spend his life in jail without the possibility of parole. He needs to be in the fast lane to the execution chamber, in my opinion. Her son killed 4 students and wounded several others. And this was at a school shooting in Michigan. This was a couple of years ago. But the reason why this is a topic is because Jennifer Crumbley has now been found guilty of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter,
which is scary and slippery on so many levels. You know what I mean? And we share the same opinion on this, but there are some things that I feel like we are now convicting people on the actions of others.
Yes, absolutely.
That is.
So what they're saying here is that because the day of the shooting, let's take a moment, remove the idea that the shooting happened. Look at the fact of bringing in his mother at this point in time. They found a drawing of a gun with words like "help me" and "blood everywhere" and things like that on a sheet of paper. Well, they brought in the parents because they were concerned about this. No one had any idea about what was going to happen next. No one had any idea whatsoever. The parents, essentially, they said, well, you know, he's a teenager. Teenagers go through things. We have to get back to work. He's in school. He's in a safe place. We're just going to leave him here. Okay. So they went back to work. Later that day, he committed the shooting. Then they came back and arrested the parents for involuntary manslaughter because they were saying that it was because of the parents' direct actions that led to the deaths of these other people, and that the parents should have known that their actions would have led, or it would be reasonable to believe that the actions of the parents would have led to what led to the deaths of these individuals.
That no, because here's the thing. Based on that logic right there, what about the principal? What about the school administrators?
Exactly. They should have suspended the student on site.
That could have changed everything. If they felt that it was such a threat that they felt that the parents need to be arrested after the fact, then there should have been something done to remove the student from the school. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a slippery slope in my mind, and I'm not the legal mind of the precedent that happens, because now we are again convicting and talking about arresting and detaining individuals for the actions of others. This flows right into everything else that we're seeing across the onslaught of the Biden administration when it comes to not making individuals accountable, but blaming everything else as well.
100%. I mean, president just got up and said, reason why we can't secure the border is because of Donald Trump. How does that make any sense?
Doesn't make any sense. But I mean, we're also talking about a president who said that he talked to someone who's been dead for 20 years. So, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So let's just go ahead.
He may have been talking to him. Nobody else may have seen him.
Hey,
but he may have been talking to him. For all we know, he's a psychic medium.
No, those are clear signs of dementia. First off, we're just gonna go ahead and
Jamie doesn't believe in the paranormal.
Oh,
that was just.
Oh.
But the reason why we bring this up, and the reason, so if you're going after the parent on this issue right here, what about the parents of the teenagers that are doing all the carjackings in all the major cities across the state or across the nation, where they steal a car and then drag an elderly person 30 to 40 yards down the road and end up crashing into an intersection and killing the person they were dragging? Where are the parents going to be held accountable for that?
Yeah.
Not a single part. What about all of the kids that are having all of these street takeovers in Chicago and causing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of $1,000s worth of damage? Are we not going to hold the parents accountable for that?
I mean, we're not even holding the people accountable who were taking over our capitals, as far as in Portland.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? When they shut down Atlanta, we're not even you know what I mean? You want to arrest people who were peacefully protesting, you know what I mean, on January 6th, but you want to actually not go after people who literally armed up and literally barricaded themselves at state capitals, or people who damaged property to the sums of billions and
firebomb federal courthouses.
You know what I mean? But nothing's happening to them.
Or put people on parole or put people on probation that firebomb the Wendy's in Atlanta. You
know what I mean? At some point, we have to turn this back on its head and take back the country.
This whole issue here, this whole issue with this woman, it is a terrible, terrible thing what her son did. Absolutely.
100%.
Is it something that she deserves to be convicted of manslaughter for? Not even the slightest.
I mean, think about the fact of what she already has to deal with psychologically from the standpoint of you know what I mean? It was her kid. You know what I mean? That in itself is damning enough. And then you want to turn around and arrest her and tell her that she has to spend, you know what I mean, decades in a federal penitentiary for something that she had no control over?
Or she had as much control over as the school administrators.
Yep.
She's not the only one that's accountable here, or that could be seen as accountable here.
Yep.
There are multiple other entities that could very well have been accountable for them.
But I go back to the fact of this is what happens. This is why it's important to be involved locally, because what has just happened here is, once again, this is your schools and your government telling you how to raise your kid. And if something were to happen, you are liable, not them, even though they're the ones who are trying to make the decision for your child.
It's a local DA that did it.
It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they couldn't get Kyle Rittenhouse, so they had to get somebody.
It's sad, honestly. Mm-hmm. It really is sad.
Yeah, and the fact that they are now targeting those who had very little to no ability to control this or do any of this. I mean, so take it like this. All right, so they took this kid, they put him in 24-hour psychiatric hold. All it could have done, I mean, in all reality, what it could have done was just piss the kid off even more
and delayed it.
Exactly, it would have just been a delay. And the kid would have known not to do that before he went back and did it the next time.
If the administrators are really smart, they'd have expelled him.
Yes, absolutely. They would have removed him from the school, not allowed him to come back on premises. And that could have stopped that altogether. So if you're looking at somebody that's really accountable for it, it's the school administrators.
Yep. That's the bottom line. I mean, holding the parent accountable for the actions of their child, I don't understand it to this magnitude. Like if your kid is, if you're bringing your parent in because your kid said something they shouldn't have or displayed something, of course, like, you know, I mean, there's some things that can be corrected at home, but this is an individual who clearly had some issues that were acknowledged by the school. The school needed to take some form of responsibility as well if you're going to hold the parent accountable.
Yeah. Now, and this is not us saying that parents are not accountable for what their kids do.
Agreed.
This is not that at all. We are not contradicting anything that we've said in the past. This is the instance where, in this specific part here, where they went after this woman, counteracting everything else that they've done before in the past and removing all precedent that they've done in the past. This is a drastic overreach with it.
It's like a double conundrum. I mean, like
they 100%.
They want to say on one hand they want to be fully responsible for what some students do, and not tell the parents of certain things, and then they want to blame the parent when something goes wrong and not take responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the parent absolutely has the largest role and responsibility in a child's life, but at the same time, when a child makes a decision, that child needs to be held accountable.
Yep.
And you can't really hold someone else accountable for another person's decisions. And again, when we're talking about some of these students that are fighting in the schools, that are causing these massive disruptions, that is 100% different from what we're talking about here.
Yep.
This individual here decided to go out and take the lives of other people. Those fights that were occurring, that occur on an almost weekly basis for a student that continuously does it over and over and over again, that is a parental issue. It's a lack of discipline. It's a lack of oversight. It's a lack of parental guidance. This is not that case. This is a young man who had severe mental issues that, because the failure of the administration was not corrected in his life.
Sad. Really is.
So with that, let's take a quick moment to make sure that we remind everyone to make sure that you are hitting the like button and the share button on any of the topics that we are, any of the platforms that we're on, as well as subscribing to the platforms. That way you can stay up to date on everything that we're doing, as well as making sure that you're going to our website at conservativetalk.org and becoming a sponsor today to help Jamie and I to continue to bring you these messages and get you this information and allow you to stay as informed as possible with all of this stuff, or at least in Jamie and my mind anyway. So with that, let's take a look at what's coming up locally here in Georgia in every county across the state, all 159 of us.
Yeah. So now we're getting ready for the convention cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And those of you who participated last time in the convention cycle, this one's slightly different. So in presidential years, what we do is we don't have the election for your local officers like you do on off years. What you do now is we start electing delegates to go to the national convention, to where you actually can be a part of the process and what we call electing to have the presidential nominee. And so that continues with the mass precincts here in Floyd, as well as most of your over 80 and under 80 counties. That's how we're divided by population. The dates fluctuate from that to your county conventions, and then your district and your state conventions.
Yes. So
I guess I probably should give the dates. So I know in Floyd,
well, I mean, it's across the state.
It's across the state, and under 80s may have a slightly different date. I can't remember, but I do know that the over 80s, our convention dates are February 24th and March 23rd.
Under 80s, they don't have mass; they just go straight to county.
They go straight to county, but they do have the ability to. The dates can be that it's all in the convention cycle, and we can get into that later. But February 24th and March 23rd are the key dates.
Yeah, so it starts out with the mass precinct meetings. That's where you come in, and the individual precincts will elect delegates from their precincts to go to the county conventions. At the county conventions, they will then turn around and elect delegates to go to the district conventions. Now, the district convention is where the actual election process takes place. That's where you're going to vote on the 42 individual delegates who will ultimately go forward as the congressional district delegates to the RNC National Convention. Well, the Republican National Convention. Yes. The Republican National Committee National Convention.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful. So that's where those 42 are broken up amongst the 14 individual congressional districts throughout the state of Georgia. You have, of all the delegates that will go to the RNC National Convention, you have 59. You have 10 that will be at large, which will mean those will be elected at the state convention. You have 42 that will be elected at your district conventions. You have 3 that are the permanent party ones. Those are the national committee members as well as the state chairman. And then you have 4 bonus who are appointed. So all of that plays into the larger picture of the 2,429 national delegates who will be meeting in order to elect Donald J. Trump as the Republican nominee. We'll go ahead and say it. It's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, he will be the Republican nominee, and in all likelihood, it's
going to happen in the first round.
Going to be 2,000. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And once you get there, the majority of it, you go through the first round, and usually what your delegation chose is a large to the primary. That's how the primary goes in. Then they will choose based on that for the first round. And then it gets a little tricky if it goes to the second round, but we don't kind of see that happening.
Yeah. No, there's no way it goes to a second ballot.
Yeah.
It'll all be the first ballot.
Yeah. Just for conversation, it goes to the second ballot, and then that's when delegates get to choose outside of wherever the primary was. But again, won't see that.
Yeah. But if you are interested in being one of the 42 delegates that are elected throughout the district here in Georgia, Jamie and I can give you the information that you will need to really be able to understand the process and understand how you can ultimately go to the RNC National Convention and become a delegate or an alternate and really getting to be able to be an elector for the presidential candidate for the Republican Party.
Yeah, this is one of the big things, you know what I mean? Because you can truly say that you are one of the votes that put in for the presidential nominee. That's the big thing about the convention, is that's how we kind of all come together. We have our primaries at large, we elect our delegates, and then this is how we look at it from, I guess you could say, a micro level from the macro when you go to like the general election, and that's kind of the balance between how the parties decide things, how our party decides things. They do something weird on the other side.
They have 117 delegates.
Yeah, but they do super delegates who, like, because they're super, they have more weight than other people, which is un-American.
It's
commie. It's commie. It's commie the way that the Dems do it. But anyway, back to the real world. And so this is the bread and butter of the process when it comes to saying that you were one of the ones who made it to the national level to say, hey, I casted my vote for Donald Trump to make sure that he would be the Republican nominee.
Yes. So if that is something that you are interested in doing, please reach out to us, give us an email, reach out to us individually, and we can explain the process overall and get you on the pathway to getting into being one of these electors that can ultimately cast their ballot towards who the presidential nominee will be.
And again, the key dates, if you live in Floyd County or, most of our surrounding counties, then are going to be February 24th and March 23rd. I know for us, and I'm pretty sure that my counterparts across the 14th and other districts have the same rules, is that, doors probably open around 9 or so, or about 8:30, depending on where you are. And we have to have everybody registered and lock doors by 10 o'clock to where we begin the process to kind of, start like we similarly do through any other convention cycle.
Yes. So, well, with that, we like to take a moment to make sure that you hit the like and share button, as well as subscribing to all of our platforms that we do put these podcasts out on, as well as going to our website at conservativetalk.org and becoming a sponsor and helping us out with really getting a lot of these messages out and spreading this far and wide, and allowing everyone to understand what Jamie's Law is and to really feel the warmth and comfort and having the loving embrace. So with that, Jamie, would you please give us your final thoughts?
Final thoughts would have to be, don't forget the convention cycle, February 24th, March 23rd. Those are going to be the big days to where we start going for the presidential nominee and going to the convention cycle. And again, I want to reiterate that if for whatever reason your county party tries to tell you that you can't run as a Republican because they think that they know better and they want to judge you and tell you that you don't have the same values as them, you can just go to your courthouse. It's an American right to where if you want to run for office, run for office. No one can tell you that. That's it.
Well, agree to disagree on that part of it. It's a private institution. They can't say who can and can't. But with that, this is Conservative Talk, and we will